So obviously today, Gavin Newsom made it so anytime you're in public indoors, you have to wear a mask throughout the entire state, right?
Yes.
And this all makes total sense, I think.
Total sense.
To some people, not to everyone.
I think it's a really good analogy for slavery. Really, like that's how I feel about it. Like, why should I? Why should I be forced to wear a
Why
mask?
should I be forced? Yeah.
Yeah. Why should when I think of wearing a mask during the time of COVID, I think of I don't want to give anything away. So we have.
Public health is fascism, obviously.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Someone had to say.
Thought that. Always.
Which is why I love public health. So there's a friend of the show, a Deborah Barber down in Ventura County. She went to the Board of Soups meeting, and they were discussing the possibility of making it so you had to wear masks because obviously the numbers of coronavirus are rising in our state. And I thought it would be good and instructive for us to have a different perspective. So let's take a listen to what Deborah has to say.
Oh, can't wait.
Are you going to be wearing masks when you come in? Are you going to obey that city? And if not, then how in the world are you expecting any of us to obey anything that you say?
Fair
I
point.
protest face coverings.
You got to give it to her there.
I am a healthy American. I used to be free. I am not a terrorist. I am not Antifa. I am not a sex slave that wears masks.
I am not a sex
not
slave
into
that wears masks.
sadomasochism and bondage. I am not a burglar. I
will have
not
COVID.
A pandering politician like we see here and here and here and here.
Dude, this is her fucking she's having her a few good mid moment right now here.
She watched that episode of The Office where Dwight gives a speech.
Trump Republican, yearning to be free again. Who are you, victim or victor? If you are offended by anything I have said, by the masses of people, then I am offended by the masses of people who do not question your wholesale slaughter of our constitutional and inalienable rights.
Right.
Shame on
Dude, hell
all
yeah,
of
I get
you. Let liberty ring.
She brought a bell. She brought a bell.
Yes.
America,
Oh my
land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the oceans to the prairies.
She's gonna do the whole song.
White with foam.
Oh,
God
mercy.
bless America, my home, sweet home.
Did the mic just feedback on her?
God bless America, my home.
Get that bell back out. I want to hear that bell.
Let liberty ring.
Let liberty ring.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Oh,
comment.
goodness.
And it's Baber. Deborah Baber.
I'm
Thank you
so
very
sorry,
much.
Deborah.
You
It's
should know
Baber, not Barbara.
The next item.
I yield my time. Fuck you.
That would have been even better. Oh, I got 3 seconds. Fuck you.
So I think that was very instructive for all of us. I don't know how.
I feel that was a very patriotic display, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Has anyone come after the sex workers as hard as she did during this
It's
whole
not
thing?
even sex work. BDSM.
I don't think she said she did refer to sex slaves, but I
Slaves.
Sex slaves.
Yes,
Okay.
she referred to
Sex
sex
work.
slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe it was
apologize, I
a picture
take
of
it back.
someone wearing a niqab, which was really confusing to me because I didn't understand. But the pictures were hard to see, so maybe I'm mistaken.
Oh,
Right.
I'm sure she had a picture of that.
I was like,
She
or just
all
religious
out.
adherence. Okay, all right.
I'm surprised
I
it
am
wasn't
not
one of those
Antifa.
trifolds. You know, like
Anyway,
the science fair ones.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about moving to Ventura County to be,
I'm thinking about moving there because it seems like there's going to be lots of epidemiologist jobs opening up.
I'm thinking about becoming an epidemiologist and moving to Ventura.
And I'm thinking about, my first place to do some contact tracing is with my good friend Deb.
I was just gonna
with old Debs.
with her.
Hey,
Yeah.
Deb.
Hey, Deb.
Where you been? Where you breathing, girl?
You're looking a little sweaty. Might you have a fever there, man?
Debs really, you know why I love people like Debs is because they really fill me with the sense of national pride. We truly are the greatest country in the world, and for proof of that, look no further than Ventura County. Look for Debs. She is proof that we truly are the chosen people.
I actually appreciate people like her because, go big or go home. If you're just gonna be wrong, be dead wrong. Don't just be in the middle.
Yeah, that's true.
That is kind of nice.
It's nice to know where people stand these days.
Mm-hmm. Well, go ahead.
I've had a great time watching those videos. I've been focused on Orange County, which is close-ish to where I grew up. And yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of those. Debs has a whole.
It's a whole squadron of Debs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be able to be indignant about something that's only going to harm me. That.
Oh God.
That
brings
I mean,
the truth, yeah.
I insist on being able to contract a virus I might not live through.
It's incredible.
It is. It's
bananas.
It's
and
remarkable.
I will spend hours making a big poster for it.
Yes.
To chastise my board of supervisors that's trying to save my life.
Hell yeah, one at a time, just like you and you and you.
I think if Deb were up here, the Sues in the Sac County Board of Soups would have been yeah, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
They would have been out of their chairs singing along with her with God
her,
Save America.
Yeah.
It'd be that thing where they reach under the dais and pull out their Make America Great Again hat and put it on with her.
And they have their own bells that they ring for liberty.
Yeah, totally.
Sacramento cowbell, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Real Americans stand up when you sing God Bless America.
Absolutely.
Damn it.
Whoops.
All right. Well, we got a lot ahead of us today, so let's get it started.
Sick. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Skylar.
And Shannon.
And Flo.
All right. The whole gang.
Never gets old.
Band's back together.
I'm
Here
glad
we
we're all here
are.
together. It's been a slow week. How is everyone doing?
Yeah.
Not much going on. Is there?
I've
Any of our
a lot.
hosts?
Yeah.
nothing. I got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm feeling actually really good. Just doing a lot of tanning.
Mhm.
Oh.
I've been staying away from the news, and that's been feeling really good.
Right.
Yeah.
There hasn't really been that much in the way of news that I'm aware of.
No.
Nothing I can think of.
Sacramento
Nancy
just,
Pelosi called Donald Trump another name today. So all the libs are
That's
really
good.
pumped.
How
This
cute.
time it's
Libs
really
are
going to
owning
piss him off
people
or whatever.
Again. That's nice. Yeah.
That's quaint. Yeah, I like it.
It's cool. So
Good times.
the
Good
government
times.
is doing good work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Anyway,
you,
that's your
government.
show, Sacramento.
Yeah, we'll catch you on Monday or Tuesday.
No, so Flo, it's been a wild one the last week.
It really has.
Let's
It has, right? You're a celebrity now.
Yeah.
I'm not a celebrity.
I mean, yeah,
I'm not a celebrity. Definitely not a celebrity. But I'm
Sac
here.
famous, at least, yeah. So, what should we have? You're the one who lived through this, so why don't you walk us through everything that started from last Thursday to today?
Sure. Let's see. Last Thursday feels like a year ago. That was a time when, as I was preparing for a press conference to release some studies that we've been working on for a couple of years now, looking at marijuana data and policing, interestingly enough, I get a text message that says that our meeting is canceled. And this is the Measure U Community Advisory Committee meeting. And I had enough. And so I said no.
For context, just listeners, listen to the first 10 minutes of the last episode, basically.
That's pretty much it.
I think it's safe to say that if you listen to this show, you've probably already heard that clip about 400 times.
Yeah.
I know I have.
And even if you have, listen to it again.
Yeah, it's so good.
I would love to be able to say that I had that planned out, and I really did not. It was really. I actually
We'll get to this. You go back to last Thursday.
Slow down.
So I had just had enough, because our committee hadn't met since February, and we are a budget advisory committee, and this is mounting frustration, right? We have not gotten the information we've needed. We've requested it multiple times. Even the promise of Measure U has never quite been made, right? We were promised second half cent was going to go to all of these community building, economic development kinds of things, and the first budget comes out and there's only $6.2 million out of close to $90 million that is allocated for those purposes. And off top, all of the folks who were getting money, in particular the police department, started getting more money, and so that was really frustrating. But then this year we're in the middle of a pandemic, and the police department now has 57% of the Measure U revenue, even though the Measure U revenue is down $19 million. And I was incensed because as a person doing public health, I know what the impact has been of the certainly necessary, business closures and school closures and all of that. But it's had a really devastating financial impact on people in this region. And when there's been time to give out funds to businesses, we haven't had enough. And so it's really frustrating then to see an entity that is not COVID related and is actually squandering a lot of its budget get most of it. I mean, that meeting, I think, was the richest budget discussion we've been able to have. Yeah. And it included the efficiency study that the city commissioned that demonstrated that the police department, just completely has unregulated overtime and is just blowing away its budget without any consideration. And I brought this issue up a lot, that they get to do whatever they want and everybody else is held to the rules. And that time has to be in the past. We have to have a better way of doing things. And so I was just really frustrated with that. I was frustrated at the way our committee was being treated because we are all unpaid volunteers. And you shouldn't sign up for free to be treated poorly. And so I decided the only real capital, the only real leverage we have is the bully pulpit. So, I decided it was time to really weaponize the bully pulpit and say, this is not okay. And you're lying to us, you're being disingenuous, and you don't get to stand up in front of this city and pretend that you are some sort of even liberal, let alone a progressive, when you're doing things like this. Right. And it was a combination of things, right? We're now in the exact economic downturn that the folks who wanted to see Measure G, which was the measure to protect 2.5% of the budget for kids, that they were predicting and that they were hoping this money would be set aside for. And then the very thing they were hoping to protect against, that our mayor, fire, department and police department all funded the opposition against, are now reaping the benefits of having done that. And that is just really
anti-children.
When you're funding the opposition for just 12 years of protecting 2.5% of your city's budget, when you are sitting here making us feel like $70 million is something that we should be happy about out of a budget that's almost $1 billion. Right. Are you serious right now? What? So I was really frustrated, and just listening to all of the public comment. I've never been to a meeting where over 300 people submitted public comment. And even if they didn't all agree on how much the police budget should have been decreased, they all agreed that they did not want 57% of that money going to the police.
By the way, everyone, this is at Monday's Measure U committee meeting where they're discussing all of this.
Yep.
And they had public comments just before Steinberg made his cameo. And as Flo's saying, they read out loud over 300 comments, and there were some call-ins too of people saying this current iteration is not okay.
Right. So, and people were, talking with their lens of privilege and saying, like, I don't think this is right. I think I read a comment out loud that's like, I'm a white physician from Midtown. This is not okay. Like, I don't want to see this happen. And so I think this is actually something that our community comes together on. And the mayor is now trying to push back on a couple of things that I think are just not true. One is they're trying to use the CARES Act money, again, before the protests and things happened, to say that people want this money to go to the police department and fire. But the way that the question was written in that public poll includes police, fire, and like supportive healthcare services. We're in a pandemic. Who's going to say no when you lump all of those together, right? So it's a bad question, right?
It's a bad question, but it's doing precisely what he wanted it to do.
Right, exactly.
Which is muddling what people really want.
Right.
In the same way that police have hid behind fire for as long as the city's been around. When we talk about funding for, police, we never say that. We say funding for police and fire.
Right.
Or public safety.
Or public safety.
Actually, I have a question for you, Flo, because I saw some confusion in regards to like the general, like we said, Daryl had some kind of, he said something to the effect of like, we have like almost like the budget is almost $1 billion and like 80% of it goes to public safety or something.
Yes.
What does that entail? Because what is that specifically? Because I kind of got asked about that in like some Facebook comments and didn't really have a good answer for it. Like what is...
What we mean by that is like the available budget to spend, because there's a portion of the budget that is there for utility services, and so when you collect those utilities, they go to that, and so the city council has no real jurisdiction over it, right? They oversee it in the sense of like making sure that we have water and trash pickup and that sort of thing, but they can't say, oh, we're going to take that money and give it elsewhere. So when we're talking really about the amount of money that the police get, it's of the money that they have some leeway over, which is mostly the general fund. And so they are making up 80% or so. I think it may even be a little lower, maybe 75% of our general fund dollars. But the $1 billion includes
and that's our full kitty.
Both.
It's our full pool of funding.
Yeah, so the general fund is
over.
Like it's usually like around $695 million or so, and between the police and the fire department, they take most of it.
Yeah.
How much of that is fire and how much of that is police? And like in kind of
I believe
rough terms?
The police department is something like 45 to somewhere around 45 to 50%. It may be higher this year because all the other things are being defunded to make sure that they get their raises, their 3.5% raise this year. And then the fire department is usually another 25% or so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's like almost double. The police
it's almost double,
get
yeah.
What versus fire. Okay.
And that's
So
the same thing that we see in the Measure U money, right? The police are getting 57%, and then, fire is getting somewhere around 25, 22 or 23% or so.
And that's your jurisdiction right there.
That's my jurisdiction.
So these public comments went down, and then Daryl came up and he said he was going to give a 5 or 10 minute speech and went a little over.
Oh my God.
And he outlined his whole fucking career, dude.
Yeah.
He, like I said, I just think that, the time has passed him. Like there was a time where he was in the middle, and he was a good bridge builder and he was doing all of those things. And I think his skills no longer line up with the time we live in, which is we are doing a reckoning. I really feel like this is a reckoning that America is beginning to have with its history. I think I actually thank Al Gore's internet for that in some ways, because it's a lot easier to be able to disseminate information. And so things that used to be on the fringe are now mainstream. You can hyperlink things. Like all of that technology, I think, is really enhancing our access to voices and narratives that should have always been mainstream but weren't. Right. And so I really do think that now we have an entire a new generation that's become adults, an entire generation of adults that have a better overall, like in terms of the percentage of people who have a better understanding of what American history is, than the previous generations. And so that's, so the tide is going to turn and the center is going to shift. And it's unfortunate that some people are not willing to shift with it and are willing to sort of stake their flag in the sand and say, like, no, this is what I'm going to do. And so he has decided that he's a reformer, that he thinks the police department has the right authority and has mostly the right scope, save for a few things that maybe could be done by some other city employees. And so they want to go the route of reform, which is, oversight, body cams, shot spotter, implicit bias training, de-escalation, which just further legitimizes their power, instead of saying, how do we get to a place where we're investing in the things that make it so we don't rely on public safety as emergency response, but we actually see public safety as investments in prevention. And he's just not there and doesn't want to be. And quite frankly, I think he's a little bit afraid of the police unions. And
a little bit afraid of the police.
A lot afraid of the police unions.
Shit your pants afraid.
And I also think a little bit just sort of callous towards communities that he's not a part of.
And communities that are paying him.
He's like a classic, like, business dim. He's like a status quo dim, right? And it's great in times when people are like, hey, the status quo is great. He looks like a great mayor. But we are in a time where everybody is really, really pretty much finished with the status quo, and he doesn't have a fucking answer for it. You know?
Well, also in those times, I think the working class is very, very depressed and, don't feel like their words are going to be heard at all. But now things are so dire that people are like, no, fuck you. Like, we have to.
Right. There isn't any ignoring it. You can't. It's gotten too bad for people to just, like, have beer and Netflix and, like, be pacified, and, like, let things go. Right. It's too bad for people to be willing to accept that, So they got to at least get people back to, like, beer and Netflix status. You know what I mean?
You want to pull the wool over our eyes, you got to get us back to beer and Netflix.
Get us the beer and the Netflix.
We're not there. Well, he politicians like Daryl, when you talk about reform, we've discussed this before, and we've been on debates recently, Flo, with folks on this, where we kind of have to drive home the fact that our police system is working precisely as it was intended to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is racist, it is xenophobic, and it's classist. And if we want to make it so people aren't dying in the streets and like in these like fucking wild, absurd ways, we have to get rid of it. But Daryl's doesn't want to because it benefits him.
Right. He's one of the haves.
Him personally.
He's one of the haves, and the goal since the inception of policing, not just in America but on the planet, has been to protect the haves from the have-nots. That's it.
Yeah, and I think something that is just like, it's frustrating every time I fucking hear him talk. It's every time I hear these like police reformers talk, is the inability to recognize that dismantling the police state works us toward liberation from white supremacy, and we need to be working in that way and get rid of the like false argument that it's not the institution that's fucked up, but it's the people. Like, it is the institution that's fucked up. The system is working exactly the way it was designed to work.
Exactly.
And that shit needs to fucking stop. Like, how many times here, you can't, like, one of the reform one of the strategies for police reform, right, is like ShotSpotter or like body cams. Body cams was a huge thing. If we get body cams, we're going to fix this problem of cops killing Black people. No, because all it's doing is publicizing the violence and the terror that police inflict on communities. It's not offering an actual solution. All it's saying is, yeah, this happens.
And then they get away with it.
And then they get away with it.
Not to mention with body cams too, another thing that it does is it just sets up this like whole, it like really amps up the surveillance state. Because like there's all kinds of fucking privacy concerns and shit that people have about body cams and whatnot. And I think like I think like on its face when they first were talking about it, I was fully on board, like, cool, this will be able to hold the cops accountable. But I mean, like, you know, lesson learned, like it doesn't actually work like that, because the cops can do whatever the fuck they want, even on camera.
Let me say
there's
one
no
positive
accountability
thing about it, though, from a public discourse or communications perspective, or however you want to look at it. Body cams, when the idea came out, police were like, yeah, let's do fucking body cams. Then you'll see how hard our job is, right? And then we did that, and the public saw, and little by little, the public was so fucking appalled by what they saw that there became a dissonance between the neo-lib politicians and the police conversation and what everyday people were seeing, who were like, that could be, you know, my neighbor or my son or whatever.
Right. Or me.
And I think they have helped in a small, but in a way that they did not expect it to raise that sort of swell to, is that Sumi?
Yes, we're too close to 4th of July, so my neighbors like to celebrate early. He's
an agitator.
Fireworks are going off, and he's excited.
He's ready to party.
But you know, that's my thought, that they have, even though like nobody wants to see these fucking videos anymore, because you fucking know, it's helped raise this sort of awareness that cops will murder, and they, of course, we know will get away with it, but now we're asking questions like, how can we make it so cops don't murder anymore?
Right. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, it's a good point, and I appreciate the sweet summer child that you are to always bring up those points.
I don't think that's okay.
No, I don't think I don't think it is at all. It's a bad joke. But like, I think that you are a person who like will generally bring us back to the silver lining, and I think that is an important point for us to remember. And at the same time, remember that like body cams, like we've reached the tipping point, right? Where like body cams are no longer enough. Yeah. We are way beyond.
Right.
We have time and time again, we have seen folks try to reform the system that is designed to train people not to recognize the humanity in Black and brown people.
Totally agree.
But especially Black people, right? Like,
yeah. I will say, as a journalist who gets press releases from cops all the time, I always knew they were liars. But these cams, it allows me to say, look, they're fucking liars.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and that's if they leave them on, right? I mean, they turn them off all the time, and it's like, oh, why was your camera off when this person died? It's like, oh, I don't know. Weird that happened. Saw a picture today too. They're doing this with their dash cams now too. Or I've been seeing pictures of cops pulling people over, and then they raise up their hoods so that the hood obscures the picture from the dash cam, so that you can't see what they're doing.
I've seen that too.
Yeah. In other states in particular, they get away with that. Yeah.
Right.
Here less so. I know the sheriff's department definitely gets away with shit like that.
I actually read something recently about how there was a place that actually analyzed their body cam footage, and they were able to basically show that the police are nicer when they interact with white people than they are when they interact with Black people in that area. Totally. And I was like, you know, that's one of those things that's like super qualitative, but it matters. And to Dave's point, I don't think that they intended to be caught in this way. It also makes me always wonder about all of the things that are non-lethal that we don't see if the lethal things are just so egregious.
Right.
And last night I was told a story, and I won't share who said it to me, but this person, shared that they were a victim of police brutality and actually later became, an officer, and saw that officer who hurt them and said, and strangely enough, apologized to the officer, which I didn't totally understand. And then, said to the officer, "You really harmed me." And that officer laughed and walked away. And I thought to myself, you were a victim of violence, joined that force, and that person still couldn't do right by you. Like, that to me feels like PTSD,
Totally.
It's like, it's Stockholm syndrome. Like, if I can't beat them, join them. Right. And it just, I worry about the level of trauma that people have around policing. And I worry also about the ways in which sometimes we can't even imagine having something better. And, I was told this kind of condescending when I'm like, wow, I feel bad for people who can't imagine better, but I don't mean it to be condescending. I really mean that it's sad that we have such a warped view of what's possible, that we can't even imagine living in a world where there is not a paid terroristic force that has the full authority to take your life with no sort of oversight or and that's why I'm just not at the reform place anymore. I'm like, we really need to strip powers from this entity and invest those in prevention, and that way we won't have to even need as much emergency response.
To me, it's like, it's always like, oh, sorry.
We all talked at once.
Yeah, we all have things to say.
I was going to move it forward, so I think if you two have something to add here, let's do that.
Okay, I was just going to say, like, to Flo's point, like, it's wild to me when now we're talking about, like, defunding or abolishing the police department, but like any number of issues like, healthcare for all, or like college or whatever, when people are like, oh, like, we've just done it this way the whole time and there's no feasible way to do it. To me, it's just like, really, it's like, is your opinion of this country and the potential of what we can do like that fucking low, that you think that like the best that we can do is like, yes, the system sucks and we have these fucking guys, these meatheads with guns who are like killing citizens, but it's probably the best we can do and like we shouldn't change it. It's like, well, can we try to do like preventative care for a little while? And if it sucks, then we'll come back to dudes with guns like killing people in the street, but like really what it is to me, whenever people talk about pragmatism like that or whatever, it's just like, dude, like your view of this country is so pessimistic.
You have
like
low self-esteem.
Exactly. Like, you don't think we can do better than this?
Yeah.
Other countries do. Why can't we do it?
I think we have low self-esteem.
Or you're comfortable middle class people saying that, and you don't give a shit.
Or you are somebody who is served by the status quo. Yeah.
I think most of the people saying this though have low like country esteem, right? There's this feeling of like, I describe it as a person who's dating but doesn't know their own worth and is like, gosh, I'm just hoping somebody's gonna date me. I feel like that's our relationship with our government. Just like, please date me. And there are other places that are like, he's not good enough. That's not gonna work for me. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're just not my type, right?
We're just more like French citizens.
You swiped right?
Like, nah, man.
Marry me, Like, we don't, even the people who are saddled with student loan debt will then turn around and say, the government shouldn't pay for that. People should work hard. People who like don't have health insurance will be like, I don't like this Obamacare. Right. Like our self-esteem is so low as like what we should expect from our country that we sometimes don't even dream of having what we deserve.
Right. We're like afraid to ask for things that are like objectively improvements on the system that we have.
Shannon, were you going to say something?
Yeah. I guess I don't know how it fits in now, but I could talk about this shit for another 7 hours.
We can keep going on. We don't have to cover anything else this episode.
I feel like, so Flo on Monday night in her in the speech that made me fall in love with Flo,
So
said,
Daryl came up, gave his speech, and then Flo,
and
little by little, over the line of questioning, got more and more frustrated with Steinberg,
just
the mayor.
served him his
finally
ass.
kind of let it loose. She had to take off the mask.
It was so good.
Yeah, when Flo was like, hang on, I got to take off my mask.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm fucking glad I'm not you right now, Daryl.
I should have given context. Yeah, this was Flo's response to the mayor's half-hour history of his life as a politician. So Flo said that the mayor's budget proposal was uninspired. And I've been thinking a lot about that. And I think, one, it's absolutely true. And I think what the Master of Crows, Daryl Steinberg, friend of the pod, yeah, I felt like we had to get a call in this episode.
Yeah, you didn't do that though, Flo. You could have thrown a couple of caws in there.
Would have loved a call.
I don't know if you heard us cheering for that. But.
It really, like, it's uninspired, and it shows like, I've been thinking so much about Daryl's lack of imagination and lack of hope for the future of this community that he says he is such a strong leader of, right? Like, he is unwilling to actually listen and then allow his imagination to take him to a space where he actually gives a shit about Black people in the community that he serves. Like, and it's so fucking frustrating to me that he can't see further than himself, and then the money that he is given to hold his seat, or, you know, the money that he's given to do what the fuck ever. It's just like the ties that he has created financially are more important to him than the lives of Black folks in Sacramento. And that is what that lack of inspiration is really about. Uninspired. That lack of inspiration is about his unwillingness to imagine a space where people are liberated from the racist bullshit that has kept them down since fucking Reconstruction and before, you know. Like, I want him out. I want his ass out of that fucking seat, and he should never again, ever be able to make decisions for people, ever. Like, I'm so fucking pissed off at him.
He won with 80% of the vote, Shannon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear?
I know.
Oh my God. What a bizarre, I just can't even imagine when his staff is writing this utter bullshit. Like, we all know no one ran against you, asshole. Like, oh.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. He also wants this, like, while he's making decisions that just, like, further perpetuate racism and, like, actually kill people, he's just like, he also wants us to pat him on the back because he, you know, is gonna try to find $5 million to make this thing that should have been done fucking 2 decades ago. Like,
you know, they say, like, moments like this are the time that will, like, test a leader's mettle. And I mean, right? Like, this.
You're getting an F-, Daryl.
Global pandemic emergency. Police literally terrorizing people in every corner of our city. Mm-hmm. And he curls up in a little fucking ball.
Well, he calls it first. He sicks the fucking National Guard on us.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then he curls up in a little fucking ball.
Exactly.
$25 million.
Yeah, it is my considered opinion, Daryl, that your medal has some room for fucking improvement, my friend.
Well, his medal is definitely not street worthy at this point. Yeah.
Your medal needs work, homie.
We can't give you a license to get back out there and lead.
And I mean, we do have to address, like, a lot of attention has been paid to the mayor, obviously, because, you know, of the chair of the council and leadership position and being citywide. But it's not as if our city council members are, you know, out here championing better issues.
No, super important point.
That's the part that I think is really frustrating. I really do feel like we have one member on the city council that has ever attempted to even address this. And, you know, I mean, on one hand, I want people to stand up and fight, but on the other hand, it's like when it's 7-1, you know, or 8-1, like, what are you going to do? You know? So I'm frustrated.
Again, you could bully pulpit, right? Which is what
you could bully pulpit for sure. I do really feel like, you know, I'm disappointed in the people who are entirely silent. I don't hear anything coming in terms of thought leadership from District 7, from Rick Jennings. I don't hear anything in terms of thought leadership coming from Eric Guerra in District 6. Larry Carr doesn't know what day of the week it is, so I don't really expect
He's already halfway out the door, right?
And he is checked out. He is phoned it in. He has senioritis in every way possible. He is just like, you know, he doesn't have a guiding philosophy. So you never can predict where Larry is going to fall on an issue because he's just out here living life and casting votes and figuring it out along the way. And then there's Steve Hansen, who has really always wanted to paint himself as the progressive, but has never actually shown up in that way. And then there's Jeff Harris, who I think, you know, is, again, often silent on these issues, right? And has never decided to lead on this. And Alan Warren, again, silent on these issues, never decided to lead. And then Angelique is a police officer. So I just don't know.
Angelique is a cop for the listeners.
I was like, I just don't know what else we're supposed to do, right? Like, she is in the bag of the police and fire department. That is who she works for. That is what she is there to do. And anything she does otherwise is like just for funsies, but that's her job, is to protect them. So I'm just... Well,
she's trying to be a little more progressive seeming because I think she wants Dr. Pan's seat.
Oh, she definitely does. She and Eric do, which is why they're trying not to ruffle feathers by doing anything that might jeopardize that. In the same way that Daryl
she does her performative moments.
Yeah. In the same way that Daryl and Phil both want Doris Matsui's seat, right? And that's why the city and county won't partner on anything, because there's too much of a, I'm going to be able to, you know, they're going to have to run against each other when Doris eventually decides not to run again. So, but that's the part that frustrates me, right? It's the, I'm always looking to higher office, so I won't do anything right now. It's the, I'm an incumbent who's not planning on running again, and I'm just not going to say anything. Like, what is stopping Rick Jennings from saying anything on these issues? He is a Black man from, you know, a disadvantaged community, from what we consider in Sacramento a priority community, and he's not planning on running again.
Right.
That I don't get. I don't get why Jay, again, not running again, and pretty sympathetic on a lot of these issues, and doesn't say any, like, I don't understand why you don't take the moment and really seize it and push things forward. That's what's frustrating to me, is that
Have you asked Rick?
I have asked numerous times, and I don't get a solid answer. And, you know, and I have been very vocal about the fact that I said to Jay, I was really disappointed in his endorsement of the DA, but he's the only person on the council who actually ever got anything out of that endorsement. And that was the expungement of the records for marijuana. And I respect that, because the war on drugs harmed Black and brown communities, and people deserve to be able to become a barber and, you know, and drive a truck and all the things that you're prohibited from when you have a marijuana conviction. And Anne-Marie Schubert not only sent in a letter of support for the state bill, but also in advance of the implementation dates, expunged records for Sacramento County. And so I still don't like her. Those things she's done more bad than good, but if you're going to endorse somebody to call in a chit, that's a pretty big chit to call in. And so I can at least respect that, even if I don't agree with how you got it. But I'm furious that there's not stronger leadership on these issues around that. I mean, we only had 2 city council members who were even willing to support Measure G, you know, like, and then our mayor is funding the opposition. So I just.
But one thing that I mentioned the last episode is that I think you have more profoundly in 1 week laid out what could be the end of Steinberg's public career. This shit can haunt him forever if people lay on the gas pedal on this.
Right.
And I think that's really interesting. And like you were saying earlier in this episode, things are changing. The winds of change are here. Mm-hmm. And we've got Katie coming into Katie Valenzuela coming into City Hall, and she will be that voice, right? To the, we hope she will. But from everything we've seen, her public comments from this issue to, to the city continuously trying to keep real rent control off the ballot, to the point of suing somebody, Katie has been very, very vocal
right.
For her constituency in that regard. And that startles them. This is a city hall that, and we've talked about this before, never on the show maybe, but among ourselves, that they in-group each other. Mm-hmm. They form a team. And any argument they have doesn't happen up on that dais, right? And so they shut the fuck up, and we don't get to hear about any disagreements up there. And it turns into a thing where none of their constituents really get served. None of the ones that need to be served.
Right.
It's the developers that get served. It's the interests of capital.
Yeah.
And Katie's going to shake that up, which is exciting.
And people are terrified. Like, the establishment is terrified because they backed Steve and they didn't see her coming. Right. And now they're like, shoot, we lost one. Uh-oh, what's happening with this District 8 seat? Is this the wave of the future? How do we get in? These people don't want us. They won't take our money. They won't, play to our interests. Are we losing it, right? So you can best believe there are strategy meetings happening behind closed doors with all the major donors in Sacramento going, everybody told me that Steve was a sure thing, and she wiped the floor with him, and I didn't even see it coming, right? I didn't even go into this knowing it was going to be close. Mm-hmm. And it was a decisive victory. I mean, people are really like taken aback by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because all of those people only read the B.
Right.
And Gil is super tight with Steve Hansen, the outgoing city council member. Mm. Gil is super tight with Darrell Steinberg and his press person, who is a former B editor. Gil is the one that got the text message, on that fight of like a picture of, something that like text back and forth between Michelle Parasette and class trader Matt Reed. Like those two institutions, our Daily and our City Hall, have worked together forever, and they're realizing that power is being wrested from them.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And I think, Gil, you should know that you don't get to just like dictate the conversation anymore.
Right.
You don't. And, you make jokes about how, a bunch of signs out on the street, if that was what the race was about, then Katie's definitely going to win. That's what it was about, man. And she won. So get ready, Gil, because this is about to get a whole lot harder for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who we never talk about?
Who's that?
Is the city manager. I feel like this guy gets to fucking
Howie.
skulk around and like be behind the scenes because like 98% of his constituents don't even know he exists.
Right.
But he's just as complicit in a bunch of this shit as a whole bunch, like is the rest of these folks that we're talking about, and he almost never gets named.
He doesn't have a vote on things, and that's why, because he can only actually spend $100,000 without council approval. So while, yes, he's the one who could hire and fire police officers and that sort of thing, and he never does, he doesn't actually have spending authority. So when it comes to the budget, the Department of Finance prepares it, and, obviously his office, has the finance folks who oversee it, but he doesn't actually get the say in what's in the budget in a big way. So that's, at least from a budget perspective, why he's he's viewed as a secondary player. Not to say that he doesn't have major influence, and not to say that a lot of city systems aren't under him, and not also to say that he's not subject to the Brown Act. So there's a lot of stuff that goes down in that city manager's office that does not, is not subject to the Brown Act is the Sunshine Law. And so it's not subjected to that. So absolutely, we should pay more attention to Howard. The problem is it's hard to pay attention to Howard because he doesn't have to tell us anything or show us anything.
Right, because so much of what he does is behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I verify, is Howard's job sort of at the pleasure of city council? Like could they remove him?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, when people ask that, and we've had friends ask that, like, well, the police force, the chief is hired and fired by the city manager. And it's like, yeah, but he also is hired and fired by city council. There's a whole, pyramid here of power.
And the police sit at the top of it. So it seems like the police are under Howard, but the police are actually over the council.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. It's like, so in other words, the police unions give a lot of money. For example, Mayor Steinberg's, security details are all done by the police. And so they enjoy this cozy relationship. Mm-hmm. And, because of that, right, everybody wants to be super union friendly, even though I would really argue that police unions aren't unions. But everybody wants to be union friendly. And so you come into this just saying sort of like, you got to get police and fire in a town like this or you don't win, right? And that's traditionally been the way things have worked. Like if you don't become a mainstream candidate that at least appeases them in some way, you're not even a viable candidate for any office. But that's changing. But right now that's the way it's been. And so they are beholden to them. They fund campaigns, they make or break you, they will get out dollars against you, they will do all of that. I mean, they killed Measure G. I honestly think in terms of the campaign contributions, the firefighters are the worst because everybody sees them as this benevolent entity. And here they are, the largest contributor to the campaign against saving money for kids.
Yeah.
And as I think you all mentioned on the last show, like they have the same overtime out of control issues as the police. The only difference is that they're not the ones out here on the streets terrorizing people. And so they're enjoying being seen as benevolent when in terms of actual spending for the city, they're consuming much more of the budget than they should. Yes. They should have a much smaller full-time police force because we have actual wiring now and our houses don't burn down that much.
You said police, fire
yeah,
department.
Sorry, the fire department should have way less full-time staff at this point because houses aren't burning down. And we should move to more of like a National Guard model where we have lots of people who are trained and ready to go when we have wildfires and things like that, because we're always understaffed and then we have to rely on prison labor. And that's not a good position to be in. Mm-hmm. So what we should do is have fewer full-time staff, really consider what role they're doing because a lot of their calls are medical or because they have a ladder, right? They're first responders in some way, but they're not really a fire department, but they bring the truck out. Like it's a whole thing of just inefficiencies if you look through the efficiency study. And so that's really a place where they're not actively causing harm in the violent way, but they are actively gobbling up resources that could be better spent. Right. And I think if we started with what we do with the police dollars because they're violent and that's the most pressing need, the next place we need to turn our attention is to them.
Yeah. I actually once called a welfare check-in on somebody experiencing homelessness. It was very hot and I was scared for them and they weren't responsive. And what I said to the dispatcher is, I don't want you to send cops. And they sent a fucking fire truck with like 5 people in it.
Yeah.
Which like is, I at the time I was like, well, I mean, that's fine. But like, you got to think that there's got to be a better community response to this.
Right. So on one hand, nobody's terrified when you see the fire truck pull up.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, you're like, how much did it cost for you to send 6 people out with the whole truck?
With that big ass
for
truck.
This, right?
Yeah.
So that's really where they are. It's like they're wasting money, but they're not killing us. So for now,
nobody's writing songs called like "Fuck the Fire Department."
Exactly.
Right. Right.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Just give it deep,
but a little bit. Fuck the fire department because who funds the opposition to a ballot for kids? Like
the cops hide.
Somebody needs to make the song "Fuck the Fire Department," but maybe just like not in this moment.
Yeah.
Sure.
frick the fire
right.
Frick
not in this moment. Like in this moment,
frick them hard.
they are not a primary or really even a viable target, because they enjoy a lot of goodwill, because they do show up and get your cat out of the tree. They do show up when grandma, fell, and they do show up when, you need help in that way. And
right.
they
if I'm
people.
locked out of my car, I don't get a hatchet in my back, right?
Right.
Dave, earlier when you were talking, you mentioned something about the city bringing a lawsuit against Michelle Paraset. Can you expand on that? Because that is happening right now, right?
Yeah, I'd love to. And this is good too, because like it's not too much of an update yet. We're sort of just learning about this right now. But effectively, the background on this is that there was a whole initiative, a year or two ago, to get real rent control on a ballot initiative for the people of Sacramento.
We had Michelle Paraset on to talk about this exact issue,
yes,
like maybe half a year ago or something.
And no, it was like 3 months ago.
Man, don't ask me to
time does not
accurately tell
right?
time.
I was on the show when that happened.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, so it was probably
during
less
COVID.
than 3 months.
It was back in the 90s, as I recall.
But the city, once they saw this, all of these, it was labor, it was a lot of, grassroots organizations coming together saying, listen, people can't afford to live in Sacramento. We gotta put a cap on rent right now. And they came together with this huge ballot initiative and pulled it off and got all the signatures together.
47,000 signatures,
yes.
Give or take.
And the city saw that and they were terrified and they said, oh my God, what are we going to do with this? And so,
oh no, democracy.
Yeah.
Fuck.
The people are here. They,
oh, no.
They won't eat the cake. And so,
eat the cake.
and so they, so Steve Hansen was like, the scaredest of them all, of the 9. He and his team came together and were like, all right, we'll make a milquetoast rent control thing where we bring together the evil business people and, some of the people that worked on this and try to get a backroom deal. And they ended up getting a deal that was very milquetoast. It was like, Sky, do you know the details of this?
No, I mean, it was like, so the one that was proposed and everybody voted on was like a cap of just CPI, I think, which basically is just inflation. And at the time, was around like 2 or 3. The numbers are all fucked up now because of COVID. So it's less than 1% now.
Mm-hmm.
But the charter, the one that they snuck through, was like 5% of whatever your rent is plus CPI.
Plus CPI.
So it could be like 8 to 9% or whatever.
Which regular people can't afford that from year to year.
There were also like there were a bunch of like protections in the one that all the people signed off on for like, third party arbitration between tenants and landlords and like
Very
all
exciting.
These different protections and whatnot that did not exist in the charter proposed and passed by Hansen and City Council.
So Hansen and City Council, passed this thing, and they thought everyone would pat them on the back, as these neolibs like to think they will. But in like 2 of these major signatories on the ballot measure. All 3 of them had to take their names off it for it to be pulled from the ballot measure. 2 of them did. One of them from SEIU. Shame on you. One of them did not. Her name is Michelle Paraset.
Friend of the show. Unironic friend of the show.
Yeah. This was after a lot of our. We have to add that. This was after a lot of grassroots people who put a lot of time in knocking on doors and getting those signatures were like, what the hell? And I think Michelle, after that deal, was like, you know what? Like, nah, like I want to keep people in their homes. This is the right thing to do, basically.
Right.
So she's like, I'm not going to pull my signature. This ballot measure is going through. And then the city was furious. They're all up in arms. Steve Hansen is just like, he's beside himself. And then Gil Duran,
yeah, there were like
over at
3
the
days of op-eds coming out of the Bee, just like trashing Michelle.
No, not op-eds, editorials.
Editorials,
under the Bee
thank
name,
you.
right? Like, oh, the Sacramento Bee says that, you know, she's in bad faith. This is all Gil fucking Duran. He really, really despises folks who work for lower class people. He really thinks that they're illogical, and he is a classic neo-lib. I mean, you look at any editorial that comes out of there. I'm getting a little on a tangent here. Anyway, they were furious. They all called her bad faith. It was this sort of joint effort to try to slander, or to try and end Michelle's career effectively, but they didn't succeed. And you know, months and months later now, Michelle is still going through with this very important initiative, ballot initiative, that renters should be very happy about. And now the city has decided to sue her, and they're asking a judge, like, to the judge to get this off of the ballot for November.
Right. I think like one of the things that should not be glossed over either, because I feel like it kind of gets lost in the shuffle here, is that the thing that they don't want, I mean, obviously they don't want this like actual rent control thing to go through, right? Like they don't want that, but that's not really what they're arguing about. What they're arguing about, what they are trying to stop from happening, is us being able to vote on it.
That's it.
Right.
So it's not even a guaranteed thing it will pass. They just don't want to give the citizens of Sacramento a chance to have a say in it for themselves. That's what they are fighting to stop.
I'm interested in how much money we have paid as taxpayers, how much taxpayer money is going into funding the city's like grudge against Michelle Perisset, and their fear that if this gets on the ballot, people are gonna use their voice and say, yeah, your shit was fucked up, but this thing is actually gonna make sure I can stay housed.
That's absolutely a great question. You know, I look at the lawsuit against her right now, and there's like, you know, 20 or so Sac City attorney lawyers signed on to this thing during all of this.
This. Right.
We have 20 city attorneys.
Wait, let me call this up real quick.
It is like, no matter if it's one city attorney or 100 city attorneys.
I was just
no. I just wanted to say
that we would even have that many city attorneys. I mean, I know we have a lot. We have some, but I didn't think we had. Dang.
They have.
I'm not questioning you if you're right or wrong. I'm just like, wow.
No. Yeah, I appreciate you asking. They like have a whole floor of just attorneys twiddling their thumbs. And they don't.
No, they're not twiddling their thumbs. They're fighting police lawsuits
when they can't. Yeah, I mean, they're fighting police lawsuits, and they're fighting against tenants. Those are the things they're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
They're fighting against homeless people. Like they're fighting against people of color whose family members have been harmed or killed, and they're fighting against renters in our city. This is what our neo-lib city council's lawyers are doing right now.
Yeah, it's pretty Trumpian, this thing that they're doing. This city that over and over at any chance will talk about just how much it loves its people, all of a sudden is like fighting to effectively silence us, right? Like,
yeah,
because this isn't like, Skylar's point is really important. This is about not getting something on a ballot. Like, they're just trying to suppress voices.
Yeah.
Right. They know that if the people get a say in this, it threatens their fucking agenda and the people who donate money to their campaigns. And so they want to not let us get a say. That's what is happening here with this.
Especially now when we talk too much.
On the number of city attorneys, I undercounted. That was just the list of deputy city attorneys, and that's it's definitely a lot more than 20 on that side. That didn't even count the supervising deputy city attorneys, assistant city attorneys, and city attorney, which on that side that comes up to 7. So it's somewhere between 30 and 40, perhaps.
Is there a way for us to find out how much money is being spent on this lawsuit alone? I mean, is there a public records request?
I'm sure we could figure that out if we want. Yeah. And we can go ahead and do that at Voices if we'd like. So that's how they're spending their time. Not only that, they sent a letter to her, like basically warning her, if you don't pull this initiative, we'll sue you. They sent this on June 3rd. Do you all remember when the curfew started?
The curfew started June 1st.
June 1st. So in the midst of this huge moment in Sacramento where we're like going through all of this trauma and, upheaval and pain, and Darrell Steinberg is bringing in the fucking National Guard.
$25 million?
This is what he has his city attorneys doing.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
They're waging war on low income and black and brown folks, right? Like that's what we're doing. So it's like you're gonna be left with nothing when it's all over.
So that's where we are.
Yeah, and it's fucking horrifying. This is like how I think I've said this before. It would this show. I love doing this show, and I love getting, as Flo might say, yelly. But I it would be super dope to be able to come on here and spend an hour and not spend that entire time just drinking. Well, we don't have to talk about how many White Claws we drink, but having White Claws and getting super angry and just God damn it, Sacramento, what the fuck?
I totally agree. Yeah,
it's so upsetting. That feels like the note that we should be on is "God damn it, Sacramento, what the fuck."
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a
As
shirt.
the sweet summer child, we do have Katie Valenzuela
coming in. It's a good step. It's a good first step.
We've got Black Zebra
flowers in your hair
out there doing just hard nosed, you don't tell me what to do or where to go work. There are little things that are we've got Flojan Kofer, I don't know if you've heard of her, up there Monday night telling the mayor what he's doing wrong with money that should be going to economic development in neighborhoods that really could fucking use it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Those are always the little things I look for.
And that's the part of the show that is dope, right? That we get out here and we can get yelly but at the same time we can be nostalgic for our future that includes these these radical women of color who are saying some real the truth to power shit has never been stronger, has never been more exciting. I was in bed. I was laying in bed watching on my fourth fucking hour of that Measure U commission meeting, and then Flo started talking and I was I'm not going to bed tonight. I'm fired up. This is amazing.
You're the second person I've heard say that, actually.
Oh, I was so pumped. And that is I'm a cynic, but I appreciate the reminders that this show also serves as a space for us to be reminded of the really rad work that lots of people are doing.
I agree.
And I was going to say to what you were saying earlier, Shannon, I I think that us sitting here and being like, what the fuck, Sacramento, and like being mad and incredulous is like a good function. I think that's like kind of what we do on the show. And I think that it's a good thing and it serves its purpose. And I don't think that goes away ever. But what I would like to see is like a future where we're like, hey, these two differing ideas about how best to like get unhoused people into houses, either one of them is like pretty good, but this is the one that I like better and I'm going to get really fired up and passionate about it. But like if we can get to that point where it's like that's the argument is like, okay, yes, we all agree that we need to get unhoused people into houses. Like that part's covered. Now we're going to be all fired up and yelly about what the method is that we take to get there with it. That's progress, you know. And
which city-owned property are we going to turn into tiny homes? Those are fights I want to have.
That's what I want to be yelling at.
Are we putting 2 more homeless shelters? Like that's a fight that I want to be in. I want to be in no lose fights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Just a final thought on the city attorneys. Do you want to know what day they filed their suit against Michelle Parasite?
Oh, fucking hell.
Please tell me it was like right as the like.
It's not going to be as cool as what you're thinking.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't say it. Okay,
fine, forget it.
All right.
No, it was Monday, the day that you dressed down Daryl. So
nice.
that's where all your time and efforts are going right now. So thank you, City Attorney's Office, for all of your hard work.
Yeah, you guys are really doing great work. Thanks.
And I hope that you have terrible evenings.
I hope that terrible evenings, like flaming diarrhea and projectile vomiting.
Yeah, hot snakes.
Fleas in your pubic hairs.
Wow, that was oddly specific.
Well, guys,
listen, Flo, I can dream big, Flo.
Wow, that was.
Oh no, Skylar's getting ready.
Skylar's cutting us off.
Not fuck with Shannon because fleas in your pubes is not something I'd even like considered as a way to hurt someone, and now I'm not going to use the bathroom at your house because I don't know what's laced in that toilet paper. And
she has like 1 million cats too, so it might not be an idle threat.
My cats are flea
anywhere
free.
Now, guys, speaking of like precarious financial decisions and flaming diarrhea, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. I'm a furloughed worker, so I'm not doing a lot of working right now. But the good news is that's brought me all this time to listen to great podcasts and take all this great content in. But I'm worried that I've reached the end of the line and I don't know. Like, is there like some kind of a website if I'm really enjoying this Voices River City content that I can go to where it's like kind of all aggregated together and like an easy to consume package?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And I'm really sorry to hear about your various ailments.
Thanks, man. It's been a trying time.
Yeah.
Cipro will really help you with that diarrhea, by the way. It's really not.
That's why I drink White Claws. I'm self-diagnosing with White Claws.
The White Claw's not helping. I've been like,
alcohol's not great for.
It's not when your butthole is irritated. You should stay away.
Yeah, it doesn't really help with the solidification of waste in your
not even as
intestines.
A suppository.
But I've
tried everything.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the asshole. Okay.
The moment when the show jumped the shark is when White Claw became a suppository. Just so
all right, now we've lost their sponsor. But yeah, you can find all Voices content at voicesrivercity.com. I say this every episode. We do cool shit, and we've done a lot of cool shit over the last 3 years. News and arts coverage early on. Very weird things. The Best of Snarklemeno is among my favorites. We do the Follow the Money project, and I've said it before, but now is the time for me to really dive into the Rich Desmond, Greg Fishman race. That's seat 3 for the county. Rich Desmond's a lifelong cop. And after you've seen Katie Valenzuela and Mai Vang commit to not taking any cop money, I really want Sacramento and Sacramento County to take a good look at how much cop money Rich Desmond's taken in. We will be having Greg Fishman on the show in the next few weeks. I think it will be sometime after his next debate with Desmond, but I think it should be a really interesting conversation. And then, we're all over the place. You know, we're on the Twitter at Voices River City. We're on Facebook, Voices River City. We're on Instagram at Voices River City, and it is absolutely hilarious. So check that out. And then we are on YouTube. I always forget to mention this, but our YouTube channel is on the up and up, and we've got, I don't know, it's blowing up there. We're kind of blowing up on downloads just through the podcast download spaces, but
thanks for doing that.
That says nothing about all of our YouTube following that we're gathering. So that's been it's cool. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And then, Patreon. So if you like what we're doing,
if you love listening to us laugh about flaming diarrhea,
yeah, let me tell you what to do if that's the case. I would like you to consider going to patreon.com/voicesrivercity and giving us $25 a month. Or you can go as low as $5 a month.
It will help to keep our toilet paper supply. Mm-hmm. Because it's really in high demand.
Also, Kempa suppositories.
Yeah.
Kempa's White Claw suppositories.
Also in high demand. Yeah.
What is happening?
Oh, wow. I thought before the episode we said we were going to judge each other today.
This is a judgment.
No, we said we weren't going to judge each other's porn collections.
Oh,
we
right.
never said we weren't going to judge anything else. There were bounds on that judgment.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
really
all
good to have bounds.
I said I will not sex shame anybody on this show.
Yeah, as we shouldn't. But maybe,
the White Claw
I'm definitely not acting in my own favor right now. So anyway, patreon.com/voicesrivercity. You can go as low as $5 a month. I guess that's it. There's just cool shit coming out. We have a lot of really interesting people coming to us, telling us about what's going on around town, and they don't trust the bee or folks like that. And I'm really eager to be an outlet for that kind of thing. So stick around and we'll let you know what we can.
Yeah.
Where might one find you
on the Twitter?
On Twitter, Kempa?
Yeah, well, my name on Twitter would be @Kempa.
I would be Guillotine for you. It's Guillotine, the number 4, YOU.
I am not as creative, and so my Twitter handle is Shan N.D. Stevens.
And I am @Flojaune, FLOJAUNE. And I want to wish everybody a happy Juneteenth.
Hell yeah. Happy Juneteenth, guys.
Yes.
We are publishing on Juneteenth, so happy Juneteenth to everybody celebrating.
Yes.
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 All right, guys. Well, here, we're gonna nail it this time. So I'm gonna start the sign off here.
Right.
So to all of our listeners, we love you. Thank you for listening. We will see you again on Tuesday. For everybody who is listening right now, please do us a favor and stay safe.
Stay sane.
Stay healthy.
And stay away from me.
Damn! Yes!
I knew we would nail it one of these days.
I practiced this for 2 days.
Good. Bye.
All right, let's get the fuck out of here.
Bye.
Bye.